Okay, today I'm going to talk a little bit about Google+, a special section called What's Hot, the characteristics I found doing the research, and for those who are not very familiar with Google+, is one of the newest social network, and it's the fastest one so far. It's the first one to hit 100 million users in 7 months. It took Facebook 54 months to hit that mark. And total user is still not quite like Facebook. Facebook just passed 900 million last week. And Google Plus only got about 170 million, if you can use only for numbers that big. Okay. What's Hot is just a small section of Google Plus. It's under the streams. It's like status update in Twitter or in Facebook. It only started in October 2011. It's only 6 months old. At first, it's actually really annoying. What it does is it sticks something in the middle of your screen, so suddenly you got all this extra stuff that none of your friends post. But Google decided you want to know about it. The 8 of them initially, and you cannot turn it on. So it drives people crazy. And in April 2012, they finally fixed it. It goes to its own tab called Explorer, so you can go there and watch it instead of in the middle of all your screen. It still does it. The good thing is, we talk about it a lot in the class, there's actually volume control. You can actually turn off some of the stream or block some users, so you will never see those guys again in your stream, in the What's Hot section. So that was a huge improvement. So it's actually finally usable for the What's Hot. You can go in and watch what's in there. And like anything Google does, they never tell you exactly how it works. You don't know why is it hot. I have no idea. Is it because some people +1 it? That's like in Facebook. That's the +1. Or some people share it. You think that would fix it. But if you look at the numbers, this guy only got 8 shares, and he made it to the What's Hot. Why? We have no idea. Compared to the QPuppy, it got 3,000 +1. So what's behind all this? Why do we care? Well, you want your post to eventually, maybe one day in your lifetime, go to the What's Hot, right? Instead of search engine optimization, we talk about a lot in marketing, it's called SEO. Now you want to be hot in the social media network instead of your web page. Web page is of yesterday, it's an event. If you look at the ENG 500 fastest growing company, the number of company blog actually decreased from 50% to 37% last year. They're no longer hot. If you're not on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, just not very good. So you want to know how to get on the What's Hot list. What's the first thing you're going to do? Want a wordly on the text inside the What's Hot? Those are the words from the 80 posts in the last 48 hours. What do you think? If you mention Apple, you have a better chance. If you also mention that you hate PC also, and you don't like Unix, the chance got a lot better, right? Usually those keywords that generate way more content. If you put down like tags, Democrat, Republican, it got even better. But that's not very helpful. Everybody do that. So my research question is, can we find out something about the characteristic of all those posts got uploaded to the What's Hot list from the linguistic features? And is there something to do with the authors too? Can anybody get on there? For 14 days from March 07 to March 21st, I collect 50 posts a day from the What's Hot list. You can only get about 64 posts every day by default. I only use 40 of them. I'll talk about why in a little bit. So I have about 560 posts. Usually I do it between 12 and 8, so I'm not working. And why 50 posts instead of 40? Because I have to throw some of them away. Sometimes you have a hot story like there's a dolphin trap in some sewage pipe. Everybody posts it, and suddenly you got 5 of them in the What's Hot list. So I have to throw some of them away, otherwise it's just the same story. Also, before Apple's update, every link on the YouTube or to the YouTube video or the Premiere video, the HTTP URL address, they're actually in the post. You don't want to count all those junks, so I manually remove them. You don't have to do it now. If you look at the what's hot now, they remove those links. Only when you click on it, you go to the site, but you don't see the address anymore. Another thing, I have to remove a flag. A lot of the posts has no text whatsoever. They're just a kill copy or kill cat. Or people will post some quotes. Instead of posting the text of the quote, they put a picture of the words and put it in there. So they're not really useful for us to look at linguistic-wise. There's nothing there. So remove those posts. And this one is more tricky. When you link to some web page, it automatically take about a paragraph word for words and put it in your post. Do you count that or you don't count that? Because those are not the author's words. There are not that many, so I end up deciding I'll include those because that's what actually you see, or search engine actually see what's in there. So the embedded content, I do include all those words. So I went through Anchor and the WC utility in Excel for the data. The second part is the authors. I want to know how popular those people are. So I go in there to each of their profile and look at how many followers they have in the circle. I also go to their Twitter page, if it exists, and count how many followers they have. And then we'll look at the result in a little bit. So here's the count. For those 14 days, 560 posts, 40 each day. There are totally 9,000 word types, 46 tokens. By lines in the WC utility, it has average of 6 lines. Lines is more like a paragraph for normal people, unless you're a Unix geek. Line is line, it's not a line. The median is about 3 paragraphs. Let's look at, let's compare to what happened for texting. That's from Bell's 2008 book and the IM study she did. She did 191 posts for IM and texting versus the 560 I have. Total number of words, there's only slightly over 1,000 for IM and text. For Google+, I got 46,000 words. And on average, in text and in IM, it's only 6 or 7. In Google+, because there's no limit, you can post whatever, however long you want. It's actually only 80 words, so it's not very long, each of the posts. And I'll talk about there's a side note. Out of those 560 posts, only 12 of them are from mobile device. At least that's what the computer tagged it as from mobile device. I'll discuss it in a little bit. And let's look at the features in more detail. Emoticon, those funny faces, happy, not happy, acronyms, EMCA, FDA, FBI, abbreviation, contractions, punctuations, and all caps. Those are the ones I look at. And here's the result. 13% of the Google Plus post has emoticon. That's a lot more than text or IM from their own study. Acronym, significantly larger. Abbreviation in the same range. Contraction actually got less than in text and IM. Remember, there's no limit on how many words you can use. You can spell everything out. And I didn't look at apostrophe. I also look at punctuation, exclamation marks, question marks, although 50% of the posts have and 11% of the posts have all caps. Usually you thought that's shouting in internet etiquette. People like to use a lot of caps, apparently in Google Plus posts. And the next part, in the authors, that's the top 18 authors during those 14 days. How many posts got into what's called? Mike Saul, is a photographer. He got 12 in 14 days. Almost every day, he got some posts into the WhatsApp. I have no idea why. And if you keep going on, photographer got almost half of the posts. People really like pictures on Google Plus for some reason. At first, before I did the study, I would think Lady Gaga or Madonna, well, they're somewhere down there, further down. Actually, the first celebrity are not any of those big names. It's not Justin Bieber and things like that. It's actually Felicia Day. You know who she is? No. It has to be pretty nerdy, you know. She's really in like sci-fi channel and things like that. She's the most what's hot on Google Plus. And if you look at number of people in the circle, most of them are over 1 million people following. That's nothing to compare with. I think Lady Gaga passed 20 million in Facebook not long ago. I also look at number of followers in the Twitter. It seems like they don't correlate really well. Only a couple of them pass. Only 2 of them pass 1 million followers in Twitter, and there are 2 persons that are not even they don't even have Twitter pages. So let's think about why those things happen. All these are public posts. Anybody can see it. You don't need to be followers. You don't need to have them in your circle. You can see them. And Google forced down your phone until April. They are in your stream. You're going to see that. So do they have a different target audience than private posts people do study on Facebook, things like that? And is that part of the on-stage presentation we talk about in our class that make the difference in those characteristics? And the location. We talk about tags, why people use a lot of contraction and things like that, because it's hard to type on the keyboard, so you want to type the minimum of words and use between 140 characters. But here, only 2% are tagged as mobile. So it makes you think about who actually wrote those posts. Are those popular people actually post themselves, or the PR people actually do it for them from their desktop instead of when they see something in the street and post it? It's hard to tell because we don't even know the demographic. Are these female, male? Sometimes you can even see the PR people make a mistake. Instead of first person like I, they will set he or she in the post. So you know that the person didn't post it, somebody posted it but forgot about it and put on the wall. Right? So the other one is the heavy concentration of photographer in the what's hot list. It's really heavy on media sharing in Google Plus. It's either video or images. And I didn't do the statistic calculation. A lot of the posts have, I call it one-liners. You'll see it, there's only one line. It said, do you agree, true, please share, and things like that. Maybe this is one of the reasons it affects characteristics. It's only the average, the median is only 3 paragraphs long and 80 words. So they're relatively short, even though there's no limit how many words, how many paragraphs you can post. Some people post a whole essay on it. They're just not only coming, or they didn't make it to the top 40 posts during the 2 weeks period I looked at Google Plus. And emoticon, there's a heavy use of it, but if you drill down further, they're not always just the happy faces. If you look at these 3 posts, they're not being used the same as text. They're actually used as graphic elements. It's really elaborate. You cannot see it really well. One of them, I think, is just a bunch, it forms a bigger heart from those tiny mini hearts. One of them is really retro. It looks like a BBS login screen. You see the middle one. And the third one, I think that's the one that created a heart. I couldn't figure out what's the first one. I think it's some Ching-Wan or something like that. Okay. Remember the text and IM study I saw from Naomi? That was from 2008. Can it be the difference? It's just people use those words more often in their everyday posts, L, and things like that. I don't know from this study, but one thing, it just come out this morning. The global usage of text statistic just came out. This is the first time it actually almost flattened out. Maybe pretty soon you'll start to decline, even in the US. If you look at the second graph, you cannot read it. The blue bars on the second graph, those are the text volume from Philippines. That's the #1 country in text penetration. They're actually decreasing. Usually the US numbers are behind, like Hong Kong, Philippines, so far. US, there's some kind of plateauing effect coming out. So if you look further in 1 or 2 years, maybe all those, what we call text systems, are no longer hot, since text seems to be no longer the fastest growing industry. The cell phone operators actually, first time in 10 years, actually make less money from SMS than previous year. That's the blue line in the first graph. It has been going up almost linearly for before. Now it's keep going down and down every year for the last 3 or 4 years. And these are the research I want to look at more. I didn't put out the frequency and distribution of like first person pronoun. I look at it, but I didn't count them. So it takes a lot of time to count each of the posts by hand. So I did it for 2 reasons. This is really tiring. Even though I still collect all the posts up to this day, so I got another 4 weeks of data. I just didn't have the time to count each of them. So the next part is the linguistic text system versus contextual text system. We write in one of the papers we did, and more detailed quantitative statistics. I didn't do the standard deviation and the p-value test for the data collected, but I do have those 6 weeks now worth of data I can go back and look at. Some other ideas compared to Facebook's posts, or more interestingly, Google Plus and Facebook, they're kind of the same thing. Like LinkedIn, because it's built as for professional, with the linguistic characteristic be slightly different. Maybe they are less harsh and laugh out loud and things like that. The other thing is, I didn't know the answer to this one. There's almost no foreign language in Google Plus posts. I'm not sure whether Google filtered them out by region. Sometimes Google does that. You can receive certain things in certain countries. That would be interesting if we can see whether Google Plus has a different locale version versus the one we can see here in the US. And this is another area. If you do a lot of Twitter, you know there's a trending section in your Twitter, like what are the topics that are being on. Google Plus has that. I didn't look at that. And I also didn't look at the comments underneath each of the posts. It may be something interesting to look at, to see whether people are more interested in certain topics. That's why they bubble up. We know the number of comments didn't contribute to the what's hot top 50, because some of them have really, really low number of comments. The maximum is only 500. Once you hit 500, it won't let you post anymore. And those are the references I used